A 2020 poll by the company Ipsos recently caught my eye. A slight majority of Americans, it said, report that they do not know a trans person. I'm gonna repeat that. In 2020, over half of Americans reported that they didn't know a single trans person. Another 22% said unsure or refused to answer. A more recent study funded by the Trevor Project in 2022 found that less than 1 in 3 Americans reports knowing a trans person, at only 29%. Hi. My name is Atlas Wylde, and I'm a non-binary trans person. Maybe you don't know me, not in real life, but I at least want you to know my name, and I want you to know that I am trans. This statistic ignited something in me. It reminded me why I was doing this work in the first place. It reminded me why I want to continue to do the work of visibility. The statistics reported in the Ipsos poll reminded me of the history of treatment and rhetoric surrounding gay and lesbian people in the West. In my lifetime, I've witnessed a massive shift in the way that queer people are treated. I was alive to see the fight for marriage equality and its ultimate victory. I've personally benefited from widespread acceptance and tolerance of queer people. Those same advances have not always extended to trans and gender non-conforming people. Even as I talk about how I have had increased experiences of acceptance and tolerance with regards to my queer identity, my personal experiences of intolerance and hateful rhetoric regarding my gender identity have not only increased in number, they've increased in severity and hostility. And I'm not alone. In 2024, as of January 19th, 285 anti-LGBTQ bills have been introduced in America. 285 bills in 19 days. A majority of those bills are not just anti-LGBTQ, they're anti-T. Trans and gender nonconforming people are at the center of an attempt to legislate us out of existence in a way that attempts to silence us and to deny us access to the life-saving care that we need. Logical fallacies are being perpetuated as truth on such a level that it is exhausting to even keep up with it. Who can conceptualize 285 distinct bills in a 3-week period? Of course trans people are frightened. Of course we're exhausted. How could we not be? I was reminded that a lot of the change in attitudes towards gay, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, and polysexual people over the last 20 years have been a result of social influence, social understanding. As the civil rights of queer people started to become a louder and more central issue as small victories were won, the amount of queer people who felt safer to come out to their friends and families and to be a part of their communities also increased. This meant that an ever-increasing amount of Americans felt that queer justice was no longer a fringe issue that didn't apply to them or that they didn't know about. They found it in their neighborhoods, in their homes, in their communities. They found out how it applied to them. In the year I was born, 1992, the number of Americans who reported knowing a gay person was 42%. And by 2016, that number had grown to 87%. Along with this increase in Americans who knew a queer person, there was also an increase in tolerance and acceptance, and eventually an increase in support for marriage equality. So much so that by 2015, marriage equality was in front of the Supreme Court. That work took a long time, and it started with people understanding how an issue applied to them. We are so human. As we learn how an issue affects our siblings, our children, our neighbors, we learn the compassion that we need to individually change our hearts. And when those individual changes of heart take on a collective nature, our society changes in response. For better or worse, this is how humans learn. We feel differently when we find the way that an issue applies to us specifically. Trans and gender nonconforming people are in desperate need of support. We need the wave that is trying to wash us out to come rushing back to shore as support for us as siblings, cousins, neighbors, and members of our communities. It starts with knowing a trans person. It starts with as many Americans as possible knowing just one trans person. This is no small ask. It's not just legislation against trans people that has been increasing in recent years. It's instances of violence, threats, exposure to extreme ideologies, and harm that are increasing as well. One news outlet has mentioned an epidemic of violence against trans people that has erupted. Even as the need for trans people to be visible increases, so does the danger. This paradox creates in me a moral imperative. Those of us with community or family support, those of us whose intersecting identities allow us relative safety, it is my belief that we owe it to our trans siblings, and especially to the trans people we have already lost to this hate, to show up loudly and as our most authentic selves. I feel once again called to do my little piece. A quote from Martin Luther comes to mind here. Even if I knew that tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree. This is my apple tree. This is not anywhere near the only fight happening right now, but I too am so human. This is the thing that plainly affects me, my loved ones, my family, my community. To those for whom this resonates, our ability to be robust and complex humans who have full lives is essential right now. When we show up, join clubs, play sports, introduce ourselves to our neighbors, attend religious services, work our jobs as trans people, we are working our way one by one toward a future in which a majority of Americans can report that they confidently know at least one trans person. It's essential for this scale to tip in our favor. When we can ensure, to the extent that is possible for us to do safely, that people know we are trans, we add our humanity to the narrative. We are a diverse and resilient community. Trans people come from all walks of life. I believe that in showing up as we are, we invite our communities to know us and to love us. We invite them to root for us, to understand us. We invite them to know more than a distant, mostly fabricated story designed to frighten them. We invite them to grow and to expand and to make the future brighter for generations of trans people. Because trans people have always been here and we always will be. My name is Atlas Wylde and I'm trans. It matters now more than ever that I can say that. Thank you for listening, and thank you for standing with trans people as we continue to fight for our right to exist. If this video resonated with you, and if you find non-binary and trans visibility to be an important project, I would ask kindly for your support on Patreon. All the funds I receive from patrons go toward producing content, buying equipment, and paying for services that help me do this. I appreciate your consideration. See you soon. Bye-bye.